What's going on, Alabama fans? Chris Daughtry here. Welcome into the Alabama Football Report. We appreciate you guys joining us today. Before we get into today's video, I'm just going to ask everybody who is not yet subscribed here to the Alabama Football Report to go ahead and hit that sub button. We've got a lot of things planned for you guys this year, and I want to get to that 18,000 subscriber mark in the next, week or so. I think it's very feasible to do. We are under 50 subscribers away from doing that, and I want to keep climbing up those Chat Sports rankings. Got about 35, 36 channels here at Chat Sports, and I want to be one of those top channels one day here at the Alabama Football Report, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for me right now. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down some recent comments from Josh Pate, Brandon Walker from Barstool Sports, as well as Jalen Milroe talked to On3 about, what Alabama's going to be like here in this 2024 season, in Kalen DeBoer's first season as Alabama's head coach. First thing I want to get into, talking about Josh Pate's comments about Kalen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban. He said, Nick Saban's a legend. He hits the exit door, and then all of a sudden, a lot of casuals say no one wants to take over for a legend. If the legend leaves behind immaculate facilities and a top-notch infrastructure, take over for the legend. You may be looking at one of the most high-level handoffs of the baton in history of this sport, from one icon to another guy whose best chapters of his career may be in Tuscaloosa. Look, I've been saying this from the jump. I didn't want somebody that was scared to take over for Nick Saban. You want somebody at that head or as your head coach that's going to have the balls to step in and be like, no, I don't care what happened before. I appreciate what happened before, but I don't necessarily care what happened before. I want somebody who comes in and just puts it all on the table for you. And I think Kalen DeBoer has absolutely done that. And when you go back to the comment about the infrastructure and things like that Nick Saban built at Alabama, I mean, it's still one of the best programs in the country. That's been proven already. Kalen DeBoer also kept that recruiting staff that Nick Saban put together. And it's shown so far that, Alabama right now has the number 2 recruiting class in the country for the 2025 season in Kalen DeBoer's first year, when everybody told us coming in that he wasn't a good recruiter. He wasn't going to be able to recruit the South. He didn't have the connections of those Southern high schools, and he wasn't going to be able to do it. Well, he's been able to do it so far. He's got the number 1 recruiting class in the SEC and the number 2 class in the country right now. But all that being said, what matters the most is what happens on the field at the end of the day. You're going to have to win games for Alabama. You don't want to be a team like Miami that recruits really well, Texas A&M that recruits really well, but at the end of the day, when the games come around, they suck. You don't want to be that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but before we get into Brandon Walker's comments, I want you guys to let me know at the pinned comment. You can be completely honest with me. How many games are you okay with losing in 2024? Alabama's got a decently tough schedule this year, and there are a few games that are on that upset alert watch, for me and others out there. So be honest at the pinned comment for me. Let me know how many games you are okay with losing in 2024. Now, this is what Brandon Walker said, and there's multiple quotes, and we'll break down all of them here. But the first one, he said, the second this man loses 3 games this year, and he's going to lose 3 games this year, they're going to lose their gump minds. There are 3 or 4 losses on this schedule. Why? Because Jalen Milroe. Guys, people can lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. He's not the guy. We pretended he was last year. He lost the job versus South Florida. Nobody else took it. He came back, and the talent of Alabama won a lot of games. He's not that guy. Now, I don't think you can say the talent of Alabama won a lot of games. He's not that guy without including Jalen Milroe in that. I just don't get that. And another point is, why do we just assume that Jalen Milroe's not going to get better during the offseason? We saw it last year. He got better from those couple of starts he had when Bryce Young went down and he had to come in. he wasn't the best during those games, but we saw those flashes. And then in the offseason, you had the quarterback battle. We saw Jalen Milroe improve, and he didn't just improve in the offseason. He improved it during the season as well. And then you take what they were able to do. You lost that game versus Texas, really sucks. I wouldn't say, though, that he lost the starting quarterback job. I think Nick Saban is smarter than a lot of people, think when it came to that situation. We went into that South Florida game. Nick Saban knew we could start a freaking lacrosse player at South Florida and still beat them at the end of the day. And the lacrosse player didn't even finish the game. Ty Simpson finished the game and came in and played, decently well enough to win that game. But it showed everybody, the fans and the team, that Jalen Milroe absolutely is the guy to lead this team. Now, you talk about this summer. You see it on social media. They're going out, they're going and working out as a team. They're doing their 7-on-7. Jalen Milroe is the guy leading this team. I just don't understand why anybody thinks that Jalen Milroe is not going to improve from year 2 to year 3, and really year 1 as the starting quarterback to year 2 as the starting quarterback. It just blows my mind. I think Jalen Milroe going into this season is absolutely going to be a Heisman finalist. He's going to be in New York. You can put your money on it right now. And I want to hear from you guys again in the comment section. Do you guys believe Jalen Milroe will be a Heisman finalist this year? Type Y for yes or N for no in the comment section. For me, it's absolutely a yes. I think he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. And it's going to show this year. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong. And Jalen Milroe is absolutely going to be that guy for Alabama. He's going to lead this team. I think they're definitely going to be in the playoffs as well. And this is what Jalen Milroe did last year. And for a first-year starting quarterback, I think it's pretty damn good. There are definitely areas where Jalen Milroe can improve. And you see from there, he absolutely did improve. All the things, what was the biggest thing that everybody talked about going into last season for Jalen Milroe? It was the fumbles. We saw a couple fumbles against Arkansas when he started that game when Bryce Young went down. Well, he only lost 2 last year. Now, the biggest one, obviously, was late in that game against Michigan. That hurt a lot. But, when you're putting up over 3,000 yards by yourself of total offense to 35 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, I think that's pretty damn good. And the worst game that Jalen Milroe played last year by far was against Texas. He just wasn't very good against Texas. 51.9% completion percentage, 255 passing yards isn't that bad, but 44 rushing yards. Jalen Milroe that is his best attribute, is his legs. He needs to run the ball, and we'll talk about it a little bit later about Tommy Rees. I don't think they ran enough quarterback-designed runs last year for Jalen Milroe. I think he's going to be better reading defenses as well, and I just think Jalen Milroe overall is going to be far superior next year in 2024 than he was in 2023. Going on to more of the stuff that Brandon Walker talked about, he said the offensive coordinator that figured him out last year and knew how to get him to where y'all needed to go, he's not there anymore. He cannot throw the football well enough to win road games at LSU, at Oregon, at Wisconsin. You're not going to win all those road games with this guy at quarterback. Oklahoma, my bad. And my biggest thing about that is he picked the 3 road games that I think Alabama favors the best in. What about Tennessee? I think going to Tennessee is a harder game than those 3. I mean, do we really think that LSU is going to be very good this year? I personally don't. I don't even know who Oklahoma's quarterback this year is going to be. In Wisconsin, Alabama's an 8-point favorite. I think they're going to win that game by double digits. And at the end of the day, do we honestly think Alabama's going to lose 3 games this year? I definitely don't. I mean, looking at the schedule, sure, there's some tough games that on that schedule, 3 or 4 games that are going to be tough. But Kalen DeBoer is notorious for winning tough games, both at home and on the road. We saw what happened in his time at Washington. We saw him last year really, really well against ranked opponents. You see what he did against Oregon, the number 8 team in the country at the time, won that game. You go to USC, you win that game, 52-42. You blow out the best quarterback in the country in Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley's supposed to be this phenomenal head coach. They go blow them out. You go to Utah, another game they play Utah at home. Utah is always a very tough team. They win that game. They're the number 13 team in the country. They go to Oregon State, the number 12 team in the country. They win a very, very close game there. And then you play Dan Lanning in Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship. You win another close game, a 3-point game. And then you play Texas, Steve Sarkisian, another coach that a lot of people wanted to replace Nick Saban. You go into the college football playoffs and you beat him too. The only ranked loss that Kalen DeBoer had last year was against Michigan, and that was in the national championship game. So I don't think those teams, LSU, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, are going to pose that much of a threat to Kalen DeBoer and Alabama in 2024. Make sure you guys go check out Fanatics. Go to chatsports.com/NFL jerseys. You can get any of Alabama's alumni who are now in the NFL. Go get their jerseys. Support the guys who were on Alabama's team. I know there are a lot of Tennessee Titans fans out there. There are a lot of Saints fans, Falcons fans out there who also root for the Crimson Tide. So support those guys. Go get their jerseys at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's video. Going back to LSU, because I can't get past some of this stuff. Does anybody really think Garrett Nussmeier is better than Jalen Milroe? I absolutely do not. He hasn't been good so far in his college career. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. He hasn't been able to keep a job. Why is LSU, if you're saying Jalen Milroe is the reason Alabama's going to go to LSU and lose, well, who's LSU's quarterback? It's Garrett Nussmeier, and he's not that good. And then going back to the offensive coordinator conversation, I personally don't think Tommy Rees was very good last year. You could count on one hand the amount of quarterback-designed runs that were called for Jalen Milroe last year. I think it was an absolute joke. You could count on probably one hand how many, sweeps were called last year. You have so many guys that could be used in so many different ways. It was just as cookie-cutter, in my opinion, as Bill O'Brien. And I know how we all feel about Bill O'Brien. He was terrible for Alabama. Bryce Young won the Heisman despite Bill O'Brien's play calling, and they went to the national championship despite Bill O'Brien's play calling. It was Bryce Young that brought Alabama to that national championship. It had nothing to do with Bill O'Brien. But going back to Tommy Rees, I just don't think Tommy Rees was that good. I think he did some good things. I think he kept the offense afloat, but he definitely did not take advantage of what he could have with those skill guys that Alabama has on the offensive side of the ball. Now, this is what Jalen Milroe told On3 recently about Alabama's offense this year in Kalen DeBoer's system. He said, I'll say there's no vanilla moment of our offense. We have a lot of things that we can do. We have a great running back group, great offensive line, very athletic, and a talented receiver group, all different. We have great size, great speed, great quickness, great toughness, and great ball skill. We have every aspect of a wide receiver in that room. Running back group, you have all kinds of speed, power, agility. We have everything as a whole, and that's the thing that's exciting. We have no guy that is just a certain player. We have all kinds of different athletes in each room, which is very exciting, but our system as a whole is going to be hard for defenses because we just have a lot of weapons. We have a great system here. Now, I think besides Jalen Milroe's legs, I think his best attribute is his leadership. We've seen on social media this summer, he's going and working out with the team, with those offensive guys. They are, doing the play. He's calling plays. They're working their way down the field. They're doing all the things in the offseason that is going to prove positive for Alabama on the offensive side of the ball in Kalen DeBoer's first season here in 2024. I think there's without a doubt, there's an absolute chance that Alabama averages at least 40 points per game this year. This offense is going to be absolutely explosive, especially at that running back position, especially with some of the guys you brought in with Jeremy Bernard at wide receiver, some of the guys you already had at wide receiver. I think Josh Cuevas is another guy at that tight end spot that's being overlooked, to be completely honest with you. I think there's so many things that Alabama has on the offensive side of the ball that they're going to be super explosive this year. And I don't think Jalen Milroe or the offense is going to be the reason Alabama loses, 3 to 4 games this season. Now, when Brandon Walker posted that video, I saw a bunch of Alabama fans in the comments of that video, agreeing with him that Jalen Milroe wasn't the guy for Alabama. I completely disagree with that, to be honest. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments section because we are a democracy here at the Alabama Football Report. So I'm not asking you who's going to start. I'm not asking you who you want to start. I'm asking you just straight up, who is the better quarterback? Type JM for Jalen Milroe or TS if you think it's Ty Simpson.